Okay, Houston, we have a problem. This right there, you see it? It's cracked and it's falling below the line. Now, if you see, there's nails right across here and there's nails right across here. So this right here, there's no... You all know I'm jack of all trades, master of none. Look at the blooper, the mistake at the end of the video. Close enough for government. Nothing support underneath there. There's slats that these are nailed in the slats right there, but there's nothing underneath here and it's cracked. So you see there's one more that's cracked right here. So what I'm gonna do is, I don't have the self-mixing epoxy right now, so I'm gonna do a line of self-mixing epoxy. But since this is below the piece underneath, and if you step on this, this goes underneath, what I am going to do is put some foam sealant, expanding foam sealant. Now this is the thing for the expanding foam sealant, and I got the exact size drill bit on here. So I need to know exactly where I'm drilling, and I'm not gonna foam a whole bunch of it, just enough that I can fill in probably up to this nail and up to this nail within this slat right here. Okay, so I'm gonna put a brick on it also with some weight from that box to keep it fresh flat, because this will actually try to lift it above the other two slats next to it. I'm gonna tape it down because this right here, if this does spill over anything else, what you're going to do is let it dry all the way, because it's easier to rip it up that way than try to wipe it when it's wet, because it's gonna make a mess. From there, I got color match floor to fill this in. All right, you can't see it right now, but I taped this seam. Well, you can see it right there a little bit. I taped this seam, this seam, this seam. All right, so I am gonna drill. I am gonna have a hole right here, but I would have to replace this whole board. So right here is where I'm going to drill once I get the battery on. All right, right in there. Just like that, it's in. I'm gonna push this to the side because I'm gonna put that back into the hole. Okay, now this has to be shaken up, and then I'm put the top of this on. This don't spill anywhere else. I already got a bag right here. Once you open this up and put it through here, you're gonna waste it. So think about any large gaps you have, so you can spray this around the large gaps. Okay, so with this hole right here, I'm going to start putting this in here, making sure that fits all the way. That goes in there good, right? And I'm going to start spraying it, and it's going to fill in all the way this way and all the way in that way, because this, you can step on this and this is going to go all the way down. As you can see, it's cracking. And then you put it in the hole, make sure it's all the way down as far as you can get it in the hole. You want it snug so it's not coming up the side of this, so it's all the way down. And okay, so this right here is kind of just to give you pointers. I wing stuff, I go off of stuff. I know I've done stuff like this before, so this is why I'm using this method. I'm using the foam to hold up the floor, but the foam will eventually condense some, so that's why I epoxied in the hole, because the epoxy won't condense. It'll make it stiffer. You hear the floor coming up. I don't mind it being level. I don't want it to be above. But you hear the cracking in the floor. This is almost the whole can I put under there. So I'm going to be good with that. Alright? But now you got to watch it, because when this comes out, when you lift this can up, you don't want it to make a big mess. My love, could you move that bag closer to where I'm going to put the bag? I'm going to go north. I'm going to pick it right up. Go right on there, okay? Now you see it coming up right here? That's why you taped it around it right there. It's coming right back up. It's coming right back out the hole, but it's on tape. That's all on tape all the way around there. So when I pull up the tape, it's gonna stick on the tape right now. But you gotta let that dry. Now all this right here, I could pack some of that in there after it stops coming up through the hole. And then you color match it. So I'm going to let this all come up. I'm going to let that all dry. Then I'm going to cut it off with a razor blade. peel up all the tape and color match the floor. Alright, now I got the tape on that, so that's sitting on tape except for the hole. So you're going to leave that wet. Don't try to smear that. Don't try to smudge that. That's going to get super sticky if you try to smear or smudge it. After it's dry, tomorrow you could cut it off with a razor blade. And then we're going to exact match, color match that hole, and you won't be able to see it. It'll be darker, like a little piece of the dark around here. But that right there will stop pressing down. When people walk on it, it'll start buckling in. I was looking for the self-mixing epoxy because I was going to put it in the line right there. And I got one more cracked line. I was going to put the self-mixing epoxy in there, color match that, and then finish waxing the floor again. The other thing is I got the brick and the weight because I was going to put it on the slat itself to weigh it down, because I don't want it to lift up above the rest of the floor. But it seems like with the little relief cut, the relief hole that everything foamed back out of, it stopped it evenly with the rest of the floor. Now if it sticks out above it, the only way to get that down is really to sand it all the way back down, but we don't want to go through that. We just want it just like that to fix it level or a little bit less than level. But now when people step on it, it won't sink anymore and it won't crack. Alright, so that's the little piece that I have left that I'm leaving till the morning time. Right, I peeled up the rest of the tape. So it's a little bit lower, but it's not going to go any lower than this. I didn't want it to be above it. But now this is the crack on that side. This is about even, and there's that big crack right there. But also I got a crack right here. So this is Loctite epoxy. This is a reusable one. So this is what I bought for my fish tank. So I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to put this inside of this divot right here, on the end of this, and on this crack right here, but not enough to bog it over the top, just to set deep inside of that crack. This is a really long one. It's going to soak into the crack. You don't want it to stick out of the crack. You want it to soak into the crack. And that little bit I just spilled above it, I'm going to get out. And this is going to stop that crack from spreading. Alright, that's good. Okay, so that is clear, and I put it on a little bit thick. So I do gotta... The floors are going to be shined. They're not going to be sanded. I don't sand these floors because I got grandkids. Perfect. Perfect. See? I'm going to get that line down. Perfect. Now I don't shine the floors. I mean, I don't sand them yet because I still have grandkids. That little piece has to be dried completely off before I could do anything with it. If you dare to lightly sand these, you're going to be on a whole different other project than what I'm doing right here. Now you're going to see after I just shine the floor regular with regular shine that this, you're not even going to be able to tell anything happened right here. So far, there you go. There you go. Now tomorrow, this little bit is going to be cut off, and then the color match is going to be in that little hole. If you're passing by, nothing you see differently, but that is not going to sink in there. That was cracked. The nails are all the way back here and all the way up there, the nail lines, so that was just kind of hanging in there, so I had to support it from the back side without making it too noticeable. Now I used to use Libman's, but now I got this quick shine right here. It's for even laminate floor, wood floor, and everything else. And this is what I bought to use. Normally I would actually do it by hand with a microfiber, but I bought this microfiber right now where I'm just put the quick shine in there. And that is my government standards on keeping my hardwood floors nice and shiny. I have not had them sanded yet because I got grandkids that ride their scooters, ride their bikes, ride everything. That's why I haven't had my hardwood floors resanded yet. Although people ask me about how I upkeep my hardwood floors, and it's really is just a quick shine hardwood floor, quick shine or resolve. All right, so we are here the next day. There's the floor. The actual glue shines a little bit more. This one is perfect. The glue sunk all the way in. This one got some glue on there, but I'm gonna shine the floor afterwards, so it should blend in some. And with the grandkids rolling all their toys in here, it'll scuff down and be natural. But you want the glue inside there because this is tongue and groove locked. So you want the glue inside there to try to tongue and groove lock it. Now, like I said, when you dry this, you could just kind of scrape that off. See, once it's dried, you could scrape it off. If you would have smeared it ahead of time, you wouldn't have been able to do that. I could get a little piece of sander if I wanted to sand this, which I probably will, but I'm gonna do the markers over it. Okay, so now you see you got that hole right there, right? Foam smashes down a little bit, so let me show you what I'm gonna do. So you're hoping this is locked in place, and if you see you cover that up perfectly, it's gonna be perfectly colored and everything, but foam smashes a little bit. So hopefully this locks really good. But the next thing I'm gonna do is you're gonna say, what, Rob, you're gonna do that? So I'm gonna get my drill again and drill that hole out. Now I'm gonna fill it with epoxy because this is 3,000 pound epoxy. So what this is gonna do now, I know the epoxy cannot go anywhere else but all the way down to the ground, right? See how that foam coming out? So now this epoxy that I'm gonna put in here is gonna give it 3,000 pounds of support, so anything this touches, it's going in, it's gonna bear the weight because the foam will crush down some. So this is gonna bear the weight of the board now. All right, so I'm filling in as much as I can with the epoxy, and then check this out, what else I'm gonna do. All right, that's filled up with the epoxy, right? It's completely clear. Now remember I told you that I was gonna reuse the wood that came out. That's what's all going back in there, because all that wood that's gonna come out is gonna bond to that epoxy now, and it's gonna be the color of the actual wood. And this epoxy dries faster, so I'm just getting all the extra wood that I drilled out that hole, and it's gonna fill in with this epoxy, and then we're gonna paint it over. Probably put a little bit more epoxy over the top. And then now that epoxy is a 3,000 pound epoxy, so you're hoping the epoxy glued right here in the tongue and groove, here in the tongue and groove, and enough right here that it's gonna stay stiff. Now with that epoxy down in there, it's gonna hold up the rest of the board. I don't want that in there, but it did go in there. Let me get all that in there. All right, it's a little bit lighter, but now before I epoxy over the top of it, I'm gonna get a marker, color that to color the floor, then put a little thing of epoxy over the top. These used to be like crayons. I liked those before, these markers, but now these are like markers. You're going to top it off with the epoxy and make sure it's level. Another drop of the epoxy on there. And then this is when you got to make sure it's level. Alright, put that back in the bag. And you got some paper here. That's going to fill in, get that level. The marker looks crazy, but I'm going to smear it with black also. I never finished that video. See that little dark spot? That's a little dark spot, but there's dark spots all over the floor. See the dark spots? This right here was actually a separate wall. There was a wall that came through right here, and I put all those boards in, so the floor does have to be sanded. But right here, that's where it's at right there. If you're just walking regularly, it just looks like a regular spot on the floor. But when people were walking on it, it was actually buckling and going down. So when you step on it now, it is not buckling at all. It is not going down anymore. Actually, back here behind the other board, behind the nails, buckle a little bit. But this right here, I see me standing on it, and it's not breaking and it's not going down. And that was actually going like all the way down in between, so it was broken off the plank. So there it is right there. Now if you want to do this like I did these over here, I got a video up how I did all these boards. I knocked out a whole wall right here. There was a big line right here and I had extra boards, but these are actually tongue and groove back in place. That's a whole other project, but I put slats completely underneath this, so this is completely solid. When we have the whole floor sanded, it's all gonna match. So this right here was a temporary thing, so I still gotta shine the rest of the floor, and then once I get the rest of the floor shined, it's gonna look amazing. All right, so my wood floor is done. It's epoxied, it's solid. Remember, I was wondering why it wasn't lifting. I thought it would lift more. I taped all the seams and everything. I'm like, man, this floor, it should lift more. It's almost level. I got the epoxy in there where it's not going to come down again. But check this out. Jack of all trades, master. It was coming out the bottom of the floor all over the place. I should have taped the floor too. Talk to you later. Subscribe, like, and share.